guys, welcome back to Thanks to Trey. So today I'm going to be doing some male eyebrows. This is something that I never thought I would be able to do, but ever since working at the European Wax Center, I was able to get there. So I'm just going to lead you guys through, give you guys some tips on just how I like to do it. So the first thing I like to do is tell the client to just relax their eyebrows because, you know, when people talk, they always move their eyebrows. So if it's moving around, that's an easy way to shape it wrong. So I'll be using pointy scissors. Those aren't the best, dollar store. I'm going to upgrade to like Tweezing scissors and all that. This one I got at Walmart. It seemed good, but it's a little too sharp, so it's been kind of cutting the hairs if I try to pull quickly. And then this is just a random brush that I'm using. Like I said, this isn't a client. This is just like one of my family members that were nice enough to let me show you guys this. So try not to drag me in the comments for no gloves and all that stuff. The first thing I like to do is just trim. So in that way, I'm gonna just brush the hairs up and trim. I don't like to do too much trimming because I've done that before and went like too close before waxing and it just looked crazy. So my advice is to do a little trim, you know, and then do some more after waxing. It's okay, and you can get a better view of what's going on because some of the hairs that you're trying to trim might be gone once you're done waxing the amount you think you should. So men's eyebrows are a lot different from women's eyebrows in a lot of ways depending on the male that you're waxing. This male that I'm waxing, he isn't fussy over, like, he doesn't want the eyebrows to look too perfect and all that stuff. He really just wants them cleaned up. And not really much of an arch. I'll show you guys how to make sure that if the client doesn't want to arch, how to make sure that there's no arch. So what I do is, I didn't get to go over it on the next brow, so I'll let you guys know here. So I'm going to brush up, trim, and then I'm going to brush down and trim. On women clients, I don't like to always brush down and trim because a lot of my women clients, in my experience, they need the hairs that brush down because it covers spots in their eyebrows. But like I said, with him, I was just trimming up and cleaning up. And you really want to take your time with those scissors because they're pointy and it can get dangerous. Because see, even looking at, there's a lot more that I'm like, I have to get this, I have to get this. I know it may seem like I'm doing a lot of trimming, but I'm still going to come back and do more because I don't like to OD it. And also, I don't know if you see when I cut, I still kind of tilt it away. I don't really, if it makes sense, I don't tilt the handle towards the brow. I kind of tilt it outward just to make sure that when I'm cutting, it cuts further so it's not so precise. Because one lady, I tried to do it really close and it does not work out. It's okay to have a little bit of height above the actual root of the brow. And again, if any of this is confusing, just feel free to comment below and I don't mind explaining further into what I'm saying. And also, when you're using the scissors, you want to make sure you're tilting it up above the skin so you don't end up like digging into their skin as you try to roll and get the scissors positioned properly to cut. But if you look, you can already see a huge difference just by trimming. I really could have just stopped here, but I still wanted to give that nice glow just so he could see a difference in his brows. A lot of people don't know this, but there's little hairs there that make it not look so clean, so that's what waxing will take up. So now I'm going to go ahead and cleanse. I usually do cleanse before even using the scissors, but I was so excited about the video I forgot, so I recommend just starting off with cleansing first. What I'm using to cleanse is alcohol. I know. I'm going to get some cleansing stuff. I'm going to revamp all my supplies and everything. Just work with me. The bank account's looking kind of crazy after I bought a new laptop. But yeah, so now I'm just going ahead and brushing them again, just getting another view at them, making sure everything's good, like I'm done trimming before the second trim and before the waxing. So on the brows, I always love to put powder because the face is very oily and it's just going to be a waste of time if I leave the oil there. It's going to run. So I like to put a decent amount and just kind of like, you know, rub it into the skin. But you want to make sure, like you see how the powder's all in his eyebrows, you want to make sure that you kind of get most of that out, because there's been times when I wasn't able to see the real shape of what was going on because I had a bunch of powder in the brows. But now that I'm a little seasoned, it doesn't bother me so much. But I think if you're just starting, you should definitely make sure you can see exactly what's going on. So as you can see, I like to brush down the brows before I start, just to make sure I could see the line that I'm waxing on. And I don't get a lot of wax. I leave it on one side of the stick. A little bit goes a long way. Just make sure you're pressing really hard, because when I first started, I used to do it super soft and it would pick up like no hairs. So I like to like really put pressure, and don't worry, you're not going to hurt them. It's a skull right there. So yeah, I'm just checking to see if it's dry. These dry almost instantly, and then I like to just pop them up. Yes, this one could have been a little bit thicker, but it's fine. We made it work anyway. And you have to be careful when you get down to the corner of the brow. You want to make sure not to dig in. Just try to stay outward, because you will take the end of the person's brow. And I have done that. I mean, God forgive me. See how I just followed the outskirts? But I have really taken the ends of people's brows. I'm telling you, when I was learning, unfortunately, there were people that got the short end of the stick that will never come back to me. But now there's people that will only come to me. So it's like, it's you live and you learn. I didn't like mess anyone up, but I was taking their corners and I was trimming bad and going too thin, going too thick. It was just terrifying. That's really what happened. You want to apply pressure. And I always like to ask, is the temperature okay? Things like that. So now I'm going to go ahead for the bottom brow. Of course, I did brush the hairs back up. That's very important to remember. So now, doing a male's brow is different from a woman. If you see the placement of my thumb, I would usually put it in the middle of the brow just to make sure they had an arch there. But being that male brows don't usually have an arch, some do, but this client did not want an arch. So you pull to the side to stretch the eyebrow out. So it's kind of like I made it straight and hold the skin taut. So that's very important to remember, because anyhow you stick your hand kind of in the middle where the arch would go, you would end up giving them an arch. If they didn't want one, that's going to be very wrong of you. Okay, so apply pressure. Now usually I would do the center, like where someone would possibly grow a unibrow, but with him, he didn't have any hair there, and he doesn't usually do this, so I didn't really want to wax there to where he would have to continue to come back because the hair just started to grow there because I decided to wax it. So here the positions are like hard for me because I have all my camera equipment, but you would do this just the same as I showed you guys, like how the positioning the brow. It does get complicated once you turn to your opposite way and you're using your dominant hand to pull, but you'll get the hang of it. You just have to make sure you're comfortable, and you have to make sure you're holding everything firm, because there's been times that I put wax and I would end up slipping and going too far into the brow or too low on the lid. So it's all sounds scary because it is, and I don't want you to take this light, because there's been time when I have the hang of this and I'm doing it like whatever and I messed up the person. So don't get ahead of yourself. These are seriously people's eyebrows, and you need to take it like they're handing you their baby, because this is serious. This is the first thing people see when they look at them, so you have to really take your time. So now I'm going to go ahead and tweeze just the hairs from below. Like I said, he doesn't want much of a shape that you could see like, oh wow, who did your brows? So I'm just going to get the hairs that I might have missed when I went over the wax. So with tweezing, you want to make sure you're holding the skin very taut, because if you don't, you risk pinching the client, and you also risk it hurting more than it has to, because if you're not holding the skin taut, the skin's going to lift up with that hair. And if you guys feel like this video isn't too much into depth, let me know. I have other eyebrows that I could do just to let you guys see and learn a little bit more. So now that I'm done waxing, I'm going to go in for the second trim that I talked to you guys about. So this one, I'm just brushing it all the way down just to make sure that when his eyebrows mess up, maybe he wakes up in the morning and he doesn't fix them, the hair's not going to go down below the shape. Like I said, I don't do this with women because I've did it like that before and it caused them to have spots in their brows. You can possibly do that sometimes, but not all the time. See how I'm pushing up the hairs just to be able to trim? That's okay too, but you also have to be careful with forcing the trim because they're gonna lay where they're supposed to lay. I think it's best to just kind of see the form of the eyebrow and work from there instead of kind of creating an area that you're keeping it in once you're waxing, but once they leave, it's not going to be that way. So you also want to just put it in the natural state just to make sure it still looks good in that way as well. And with brushing the eyebrows down with women, I'm sorry, the reason I'm telling you guys about with women, because these is very different. If you have a male that wants the arch, wants all that, you would handle it the same way as that. But if you don't, I don't want you to compare this. It's kind of like how doing a pedicure. A male just wants clear. He wants it to look nice, but it's not the same as when you're putting color and you have to make sure there's no streaks. And, you know, so just take this with a grain of salt. This is really just for male eyebrows that don't want too much, because my male clients, this took me no time, but my male clients that really want an arch, want them looking perfect, takes me much longer. So again, I'm just doing the same thing on this side, just tweezing. With any other service, I always like to ask, oh, is tweezing okay? But I don't ask with this because the hard wax isn't so precise when it comes to really anything. You have to mostly go over it again if you're not like making it super hot. So I always like to just tweeze regardless, because if not, it's not gonna look right. Unless they tell me, no, don't do it. I'm gonna let them know, hey, sorry, I have to do it, you know? Or it's gonna look a certain way and then I won't do it, and then they'll just know that disclaimer. So yeah, as you can see, I'm just making sure everything is within the shape of the eyebrow. See those little hairs just down to everything. I just want to make sure it's all in the same shape. Also, something I feel that I didn't stress enough is the temperature of the wax. Of course, you always want to make it the temperature where it's lifting up hair. I know those wax specialists that are like, it just has to be hot. Like, it is what it is. I'm not one of those because I know what it's like to get burned by wax, literally from doing it myself, to myself. So I always like to make it a comfortable temperature, okay? So you always want to be careful because the eyebrows are very, like, not the eyebrows, but this part of the face, especially below the brow, is very sensitive. The skin is so thin and it will burn so easy. So just be mindful of the temperature. I like to go off of it through the consistency of the wax. It can't be too runny and it can't be too thick. But you want, once you put it on that one side of your stick, it should be able to sit there before it flattens out and falls on the sides. That's how I go off of it. And like I said, I try not to do too much conversing with eyebrows if it's a client that's more expressive using their eyebrows, because once they stop talking, I'm going to be like, it's crooked. Yeah. So I like to, the front of the brows, I always like to make sure that line is pretty straight because that kind of brings out the cleanness in the face. So those are just little things that I like to pay attention to. I like to bring all my tools over from the table and just put them on, not the table, but I like to bring all my tools over from the counter and just put them, like if you see where I'm sitting them down and putting them on the bed. But later on in the video, I'm going to show you a way to hold, you know, to hold your I'm sorry guys. I'm going to show you guys a way to hold the scissors, because literally this is something I've always been so scared of, because sometimes I like to keep them all in my hand just working back and forth, just for time's sake, being that I'm working for the European Wax Center and they just give me 15 minutes, which I always usually go over. I go at like 20, but they said they can't lower it, so it is what it is. But you want to make sure, I mean heighten the time, but what you want to make sure is that you're holding it kind of like you do scissors, like bigger scissors, because I ripped the wax from underneath her eye, and I looked and the scissors were right next to her eye. Like literally, if I would have held up any more, it would have hit her in the eye, the pointy part. So this is how you do it. Please be mindful and make sure that's how you're holding your scissors if you want to hold everything at once like that. As you can see, brows are a simple thing. This is the before. As you can see, his hair is just really long, so this was just one of those clients where you want to make sure you're trimming good. And then see the difference, how much clean his face is, but it's not like a wow, your eyebrows are laid, because you could see that the perfection in it is not fully there, but it just looks like some clean brows. So I hope this video helped you guys. Please don't forget to comment below and let me know what you guys thought of it. Any critiques you may have to teach me something new of your technique to do brows, I'd love to hear from you guys. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Bye.